Vex's clawed hand tightened around his plasma rifle as he stood guard in the cargo bay. His yellow eyes tracked every movement, every shadow. After 40 years working security on pirate ships across the outer sectors, he developed instincts that kept him alive when others died. Those instincts were screaming at him now, and he didn't understand why. The cargo bay smelled like recycled air and fear. The usual smell after a raid. But something felt different this time. Wrong. The human girl hung in the center of the bay, her wrists locked in neural restraints that kept her suspended a few inches off the metal floor. She looked so small. Fragile. According to the manifest they'd pulled from her destroyed transport shuttle, her name was Emily Brooks. 16 years old by human standards. Just a kid. Captain Thross circled her slowly, his forearms folded behind his back. The Krell captain was 9 feet tall, covered in thick gray scales that could deflect most small arms' fire. His species had been slavers for 3,000 years. They knew how to break spirits. Thross was particularly good at his job. "Let's see how much fight you have in you, human whelp," Thross hissed. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. He pulled out the neural whip from his belt. The device was illegal in 70 star systems, but that didn't matter out here in the lawless zones. When Thross activated it, blue electricity crackled along its length. The sound made several of the younger pirates step back nervously. They'd all seen what that whip could do. Emily's eyes went wide. She pulled against the restraints, but they held firm. Thross smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth, and struck. The scream that tore from Emily's throat echoed off the metal walls. Vex had heard thousands of screams in his career. This one made something in his chest tighten uncomfortably. The neural whip didn't just hurt the body. It set every nerve ending on fire simultaneously. Most species passed out after the first strike. But when the energy faded and Emily could breathe again, she didn't beg. She didn't cry. She lifted her head, her blonde hair now stuck to her face with sweat, and looked Thross straight in the eye. The look she gave him was pure hatred. Pure defiance. Vex felt his scales ripple. He'd seen thousands of species crack under Thross's interrogations. Hardened warriors. Trained soldiers. Veteran smugglers. They all broke eventually. Usually within minutes. But this 16-year-old human girl, this child, was glaring at her torturer like she wanted to rip his throat out with her bare hands. "Interesting," Thross muttered. "You've got spirit. Good. The fighting pits pay more for slaves with spirit. But first, we need to teach you obedience." He activated the whip again. Emily's body went rigid as electricity coursed through her. Her back arched, her muscles locked, and another scream ripped from her throat. This time it lasted longer. 10 seconds. 15. 20. When Thross finally stopped, Emily hung limp in the restraints, gasping for air. Her flight suit was soaked with sweat. Her whole body trembled. Vex thought she might pass out now. Most would. Instead, through gritted teeth, Emily managed to speak. "My dad is going to kill you." The cargo bay fell silent for a moment. Then Thross threw his head back and laughed. It was a cruel, grinding sound. The dozen pirates scattered around the bay joined in, their various alien voices creating a chorus of mockery. "Your father?" Thross wheezed. "Oh, this is rich. Human, your species can barely defend your own shipping lanes. You're diplomats. Traitors. You talk and negotiate while real predator species hunt. Your military is spread so thin across your little territory that the nearest patrol is probably days away from here. Your father? He's probably filing an insurance claim right now." The other pirates laughed harder. One of them, a Vorkian with purple skin, slapped his knee. "Maybe he'll write a strongly worded letter." But Vex wasn't laughing. His eyes had caught something the others missed. Emily's right boot. There was a faint green light blinking from inside it. A transmitter. She'd managed to activate a distress beacon before they captured her. That beacon was still active. Still broadcasting. Vex said nothing. 40 years of survival instinct told him that speaking up would only get him killed. But his mind raced. How long had that beacon been transmitting? What had it sent? These pirates had tortured Emily for almost 15 minutes now. Had all of that been broadcast? He looked at Emily again. Despite the pain, despite the trembling in her limbs, there was something in her eyes. Not hope exactly. Something else. Certainty. She knew something they didn't. Thross raised the whip for another strike. That's when every screen in the ship suddenly flickered. The main display, the tactical screens, even the personal datapads the pirates carried, all showed the same message in plain white text against black. 15 minutes. That's all you have. The laughter died instantly. The cargo bay went silent except for the hum of the ship's engines and Emily's labored breathing. Thras stared at the screen, his forearms dropping to his sides. What is this? Some kind of joke. But Vex knew it wasn't a joke. He'd been in enough combat situations to recognize a warning when he saw one. His scales began to harden involuntarily, his species' automatic response to extreme danger. His claws extended. His pupils contracted to slits. Every combat instinct he'd developed over 4 decades suddenly screamed one word into his mind. Run. Something was coming for Emily Brooks. And whatever it was, it terrified a part of Vex he didn't even know existed. The bridge of the Crimson Talon exploded into chaos. Warning lights flashed across every console. Captain Thras stormed through the door, his forearms gesturing wildly as he shouted commands at his crew. Battle stations. Now. His voice boomed through the ship's intercom. Pirates who'd been lounging in the mess hall or sleeping in their quarters suddenly scrambled to their posts. Boots thundered through corridors. Weapons were grabbed from lockers. Thras leaned over the navigation console, his massive frame blocking the light from the screens. Plot a jump. Any direction. I don't care where, just get us out of this sector. The Vorkian pilot's purple fingers flew across the controls. Calculating jump coordinates now, Captain. 2 minutes until we can engage. Make it 1 minute, Thras growled. He turned to his weapons officer. Power up all defensive systems. Charge the plasma cannons. Sir, we don't even know what we're facing, the weapons officer said nervously. It's a bluff, Thras snarled, slamming one of his fists on the console. It has to be. The nearest human patrol is 4 days away at maximum FTL speed. I've checked the charts. We're in the middle of nowhere. They're trying to scare us into releasing the girl. Well, it won't work. She's worth too much. But even as he said it, there was uncertainty in his voice. Vex could hear it from his position down in the lower decks. Vex stood at his post near the brig, but his mind was elsewhere. His claws moved across his personal data pad, pulling up the ship's information database. He typed in a search query, humans, children, rescue operations. The first dozen results were what he expected. Standard stuff. Humans were classified as a Class 3 species. Weak gravity worlders from a planet with barely 1 standard gravity. No natural armor. No claws or fangs. No venom. Their military was small compared to the major powers. They preferred diplomacy and trade over conflict. But Vex kept digging deeper into the database. Into the restricted files that most crew members didn't even know existed. And that's where he found them. Incident reports. Dozens of them. All flagged with red priority markers. His eyes scanned through the reports quickly. Each one involved human children who'd been kidnapped, held hostage, or threatened. And every single report ended the same way. Total hostile elimination. 0 enemy survivors. Human response forces achieved 100% objective success. That was unusual enough. But what really caught Vex's attention was the casualty rate. The human forces in these incidents had taken losses between 40 and 90%, meaning that in some cases, 9 out of 10 humans who responded ended up dead or critically wounded. And yet they'd won every single time. One report made Vex's blood actually run cold. His twin hearts beat faster as he read it. It was from a syndicate slaver operation that had grabbed 5 human kids from a colony transport. The report noted, responding forces were not military personnel. DNA analysis and identification confirmed all attackers originated from civilian population centers. Occupations included agricultural workers, educators, mechanics, and medical staff. None had formal military training. Recommend extreme caution regarding human juveniles. Cost-benefit analysis suggests they are not viable targets. Vex read that last line 3 times. Not viable targets. The galactic slave trade, which dealt in hundreds of species, had basically declared human children off-limits. Not because humans were strong but because the response was too costly. Guard, a weak voice called from behind him. Vex turned. Emily was slumped against the wall of her cell, barely visible through the blue energy bars that kept her contained. Her face was bruised. One eye was swelling shut. Her flight suit was torn at the shoulder. She looked like she might pass out at any moment. You should leave this ship, she whispered. While you still can. Vex approached the cell slowly. Something in her tone made him uneasy. Why would I do that? Emily tried to laugh, but it came out as more of a cough. They're coming for me. They always come. My dad. My mom. My neighbors. Everyone. She lifted her head, and Vex saw her eyes clearly for the first time since the torture had stopped. There was no hope in those eyes. Hope implied uncertainty. What Vex saw was absolute certainty. Knowledge. And underneath that, something else that made his scales itch. Pity. This broken, tortured 16-year-old girl was looking at him with pity. Your people are traitors, Vex said quietly, trying to understand. Your military is small. You have no warriors nearby. The scans show we're alone in this sector. Emily's bitter laugh was painful to hear. You really don't understand, do you? They don't send warriors for this. They don't send soldiers. She coughed again and there was blood on her lips. They send parents. Before Vex could ask what she meant, alarms suddenly started blaring throughout the ship. The emergency klaxons made his ears ring. On the bridge, someone was screaming into the comms. Captain. The FTL drive won't engage. We're locked out. Thrasa's voice crackled over the intercom. That's impossible. Override it manually. We can't, sir. Someone's accessed our systems remotely. The entire drive is locked down. Then scan for ships. Find out who's doing this. There was a long pause. When the sensor officer's voice came back, it was shaking. Sir, there's nothing on sensors. No ships within 10 million kilometers. We're completely alone. But they weren't alone. Vex knew it. Emily knew it. And somewhere deep in his primitive brainstem, where instinct lived older than civilization, Vex's body knew it too. 5 minutes crawled by. Each second felt like an hour. Pirates checked their weapons nervously. Whispered conversations filled the corridors. Everyone felt it now. That presence. That sense of being watched. Then the lights went out. Total darkness swallowed the ship for 3 heartbeats. Then emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in deep red light. The color of blood. Vex's scales hardened completely. It was an involuntary response. His species' automatic reaction to mortal danger. His claws extended fully. His pupils became thin slits. Every muscle in his body tensed for combat. In 40 years of fighting across 100 battlefields and 50 different war zones, Vex had never felt fear quite like this. Something was out there in the darkness. Something was hunting them. And it was very, very close. The entire ship lurched violently to the side. Vex grabbed onto a support beam to keep from falling. Through the walls, he heard the unmistakable sound of metal tearing. Not the clean cut of a plasma torch. The raw, brutal sound of something being ripped apart by force. 3 contacts appeared on the tactical display. Ships dropping out of FTL drive right on top of them. That close, the spatial distortion should have torn both vessels apart. It was basic physics. You needed at least 1,000 kilometers of clearance when exiting faster than light travel, or the gravitational shear would crush your ship like a tin can. But these 3 ships had jumped in at less than 100 meters. Impossible. Thrasa's voice screamed through the intercom. That maneuver should have killed them all. Vex's eyes locked onto the identification tags scrolling across the tactical screen. His stomach dropped. Miller's Hope. Civilian mining vessel. New Boston salvage. Civilian salvage hauler. Brooks family transport. Private cargo ship. Brooks. Emily's last name. They're not military, Vex muttered to himself, his voice barely a whisper. They're civilians. The words had barely left his mouth when the first impact shook the ship. Heavy magnetic harpoons punched through the Crimson Talon's hull like it was paper. Vex heard them slamming home one after another. Boom, boom, boom. 6 points of connection. The whole ship groaned under the strain. Then came the boarding pods. Dozens of them. They hit the hull with massive impacts that rang through the ship like gongs. Vex could track their positions by sound alone. 3 on the port side. 4 on starboard. 2 hitting the upper decks. More on the lower engineering section. All hands repel boarders. Thras commanded. His voice was different now. Higher. Stressed. They're just civilians. Just humans. Kill them all. Vex ran toward the cargo bay, his weapon ready. Pirates were streaming in from all directions, taking up defensive positions. 20 of them at least. Professional killers. Veterans. They had plasma rifles, blast shields, the works. The cargo bay doors blew inward with a deafening explosion. Smoke filled the air. And through that smoke they came. Vex had expected soldiers. Trained military units in proper armor with military weapons. What he saw instead froze his blood. The humans coming through that smoke were wearing welded scrap metal as armor. Actual pieces of hull plating, bent and shaped and strapped to their bodies with industrial cables. Some wore mining exosuits, the kind used for moving heavy ore. Others had construction gear, the heavy-duty equipment used for building colonies. And their weapons. By the gods, their weapons. One man carried an industrial plasma cutter, the kind used for ship repairs. Another woman held a modified nail gun that shot 3-inch steel spikes. A third human wielded what looked like a mining laser, meant for cutting through asteroid rock. But their faces. That's what really got to Vex. No screaming. No battle cries. No rage or fury in their expressions. Just cold, focused determination. Like they were going to work. Like this was a job that needed doing. Fire. Fire, one of the pirates screamed. 20 plasma rifles opened up at once. The cargo bay lit up with bright blue energy bolts. 3 humans took direct hits to the chest. The kind of hits that would punch through combat armor and kill most species instantly. Their makeshift armor glowed white-hot where the plasma struck. The metal turned orange, then yellow, then white. Vex could smell burning metal and flesh. They kept coming. The woman in front, maybe 50 years old with gray streaks in her dark hair, took a plasma bolt straight to her left shoulder. It burned clean through. Vex saw the entry wound, saw the flesh char and smoke. She grunted once. Just once. Then she shifted her grip on the plasma cutter she was carrying, moving it to her good hand, and kept walking forward. She reached the first pirate, a Krell enforcer twice her size. The plasma cutter came up. The Krell tried to bring his rifle around for a point-blank shot. Too slow. The plasma cutter sliced through his armored torso like butter. He fell. She stepped over him and moved to the next one. Then the next. Then the next. They won't go down, a pirate screamed. They won't. The modified nail gun punched 3 steel spikes through his face. He dropped without finishing his sentence. Vex watched in pure horror as the battle turned into a massacre. His people had better weapons. Better armor. Decades of combat experience. None of it mattered. The humans just absorbed damage that should have killed them and kept moving forward. One step at a time. Methodical. Patient. Inevitable. An older human male, his gray hair visible under a cracked mining helmet, got hit by a Vorkian pirate wielding a vibroblade. The blade went straight through his thigh. Should have severed the artery. Should have dropped him instantly. The old man looked down at the blade sticking through his leg. Looked at it like it was a minor inconvenience. Then he grabbed it with both hands and pulled it out. Blood poured from the wound. He didn't seem to notice. He beat the Vorkian pirate to death with his own weapon. Then he broke the blade over his knee, wrapped a piece of torn fabric around his leg and kept moving. Vex realized something in that moment. Something that made his scales feel cold despite the heat from weapons fire all around him. These humans weren't refusing to acknowledge their injuries. They were acknowledging them and choosing not to care. They knew they were hurt. They knew they might die. They just didn't care. Because somewhere on this ship, Emily was waiting. And nothing, not pain, not fear, not death itself was going to stop them from reaching her. Pirates were running now. Actually turning and fleeing. Vex watched trained killers throw down their weapons and try to escape. It didn't matter. The humans hunted them down one by one. Vex made his decision. He turned and ran. Not toward the battle. Toward Emily's cell. If he was going to survive this, he needed to be on the right side when it ended. Behind him, the screaming continued. And the humans kept coming. Vex ran through the corridors until he reached Emily's cell. 2 humans were already there, both covered in purple and green alien blood. They had their weapons aimed at him, fingers on triggers. Wait. Emily's voice was weak but clear. He gave me water. He didn't hurt me. The 2 humans lowered their weapons slightly. The man was tall, maybe 6'3", with brown hair and dark eyes that looked dead inside. The woman next to him was shorter, athletic build, with the same eyes. Vex realized with a chill that these were Emily's parents. Jack and Lisa Brooks, according to the ship manifest he'd seen earlier. Where's the captain? Jack asked. His voice was perfectly calm. Too calm. Like ice over deep water. Bridge, Vex said. Barricaded with his elite guard. Lisa nodded once. She reached past Vex and deactivated the cell's energy bars. Emily stumbled forward and her parents caught her, holding her tight. For just a moment, Vex saw the cold hardness leave their faces. They were just parents again. Scared parents holding their hurt child. Then Emily whispered, I'm okay. I'm okay now. The hardness came back. Jack stood up, helped Emily to her feet. 2 other colonists appeared, a younger couple who wrapped Emily in a heavy jacket and stayed close to her. Take us to the bridge, Lisa said to Vex. They walked through the ship. Vex counted bodies as they went. 23 pirates dead. Some killed cleanly. Others not so cleanly. The walls were scorched with plasma burns. Blood of a dozen different colors stained the floors. And the humans? Vex couldn't stop staring at them. One man was walking with a piece of shrapnel still embedded in his side. A woman had third-degree burns covering her entire left arm. Another man was definitely walking on a broken ankle. They moved like these injuries were nothing more than paper cuts. How many of you came? Vex asked quietly. 47, Jack answered without looking at him. Everyone who could reach a ship within 15 minutes. But you're military, surely you called for backup? For proper support. We didn't call the military, Lisa interrupted. There was something sharp in her voice. The military would have followed their protocols. They would have tried negotiations first. Established contact. Discussed terms. Followed rules of engagement. Her grip tightened on the mining laser she carried. We don't have protocols for people who torture our children. Vex understood then. These weren't soldiers following orders. These were neighbors who'd heard a child screaming over an emergency broadcast. These were parents who'd imagined their own kids in Emily's place. These were ordinary people who'd grabbed whatever weapons they could find and ran toward danger instead of away from it. And that made them far more dangerous than any army. They reached the bridge. The blast doors were half melted, glowing orange in places where the humans had been cutting through. Jack held up one hand. 8 colonists moved into position without a word. Not military precision but something else. The kind of coordination you get from people who've worked side by side for years. Who know each other's moves before they make them. Jack counted down on his fingers. 3, 2, 1. The weakened door fell inward with a crash. Immediately, plasma fire erupted from inside. Captain Thross and his 5 elite guards had been waiting, weapons charged and ready. 3 humans at the front took direct hits. They went down hard. Vex thought they were dead. The other 5 charged straight into the plasma fire. Vex pulled Emily back, shielding her with his own body. What he witnessed in the next 30 seconds would haunt him forever. Thross's elite guards were the best. Veterans of 100 battles across 50 worlds. They had military-grade armor and weapons. 4 arms each, giving them twice the firing capacity of most species. They lasted 15 seconds. Captain Thross himself fought like the warrior he was. 4 arms moving independently, each wielding a different weapon. 40 years of combat experience in every move. He'd killed dozens of opponents in single combat over his career. He lasted 20 seconds. Jack Brooks stood over the Krell captain. Thross was alive but broken. All 4 arms bent at wrong angles. His armor cracked and useless. He was begging in 3 different languages, switching between them desperately. Please, I didn't know humans are supposed to be weak, we thought. You thought we were prey, Lisa finished. She knelt beside her husband, looking down at Thross. You thought because we prefer peace we couldn't do violence. You thought because we negotiate we wouldn't fight. Jack picked up a datapad that had fallen from Thross's belt. The screen showed video footage. Emily's torture. All of it recorded. Time-stamped. Ready to be sold. You recorded it, Jack said quietly. You were going to sell this. Sell footage of torturing my daughter. Emily's voice came from behind Vex. Dad. Mom. I'm okay. I'm here now. You can stop. Jack looked back at his daughter. Vex saw something shift in the man's face. The killing rage didn't disappear but it pulled back slightly. Controlled. Leashed. We stopped being civilized 15 minutes ago, Jack said, looking back down at Thross. The moment you touched our daughter. But we'll be civilized again. He paused. After. What happened in those next 5 minutes, Vex would never describe in detail. Not to the authorities. Not to other mercenaries. Not even to himself in his own thoughts. But when it was over, Captain Thross was dead. The bridge was silent except for heavy breathing and the hum of ship systems. And the humans, these farmers and miners and teachers, stood covered in blood that wasn't theirs and looked ready to do it all over again if necessary. 3 weeks had passed since the incident on the Crimson Talon. Vex stood in the Chamber of Scales, the great hall where his people's mightiest warriors gathered to decide matters of war, peace, and survival. The chamber was carved from a single massive crystal formation, walls rising 50 feet high. Sunlight filtered through, casting rainbow patterns across the floor. 12 council members sat in elevated seats arranged in a semicircle. These were the grand warriors of his species. Each had fought in dozens of campaigns. Each carried scars from 100 battles. They were the ones who made decisions about which species to ally with, which to avoid and which to prey upon. The High Commander, a massive male with dark green scales and countless battle scars, leaned forward in his seat. His yellow eyes fixed on Vex with obvious skepticism. Let me understand this correctly, the commander growled. You expect us to believe that 47 human civilians destroyed the Crimson Talon and her entire crew of 38 trained pirates? Vex stood straight, his hands clasped behind his back. I don't expect you to believe anything, Commander. I expect you to watch. He activated the holographic projector in the center of the chamber. The recording began to play. Emily's capture. The destroyed transport shuttle. Her being dragged to the cargo bay. Then came the torture. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Even hardened warriors found it difficult to watch a child being hurt. The neural whip. The screams. Emily's defiance. The 15-minute warning appearing on every screen. Then the arrival. 3 civilian ships dropping out of FTL at suicidal proximity. The boarding. The humans pouring through in their makeshift armor, carrying tools instead of weapons. The council watched in dead silence as the humans absorbed plasma fire and kept advancing. Watched as they tore through professional killers like paper. Watched as parents and teachers and farmers became instruments of pure violence. When the recording ended, nobody spoke for a long moment. The chamber was absolutely silent except for the faint hum of the projector cooling down. This was one human child, Vex said quietly into that silence. One 16-year-old girl. They came in civilian ships. Mining vessels and family transports. They took injuries that would have killed any of us. Broken bones. Burns. Puncture wounds. One man had a blade through his leg and kept fighting. A woman took a plasma bolt through her shoulder and didn't even slow down. It's an overreaction, the trade minister spoke up. He was a smaller male, not a warrior but a bureaucrat. Emotional. Inefficient. A proper military response would have been more cost-effective. Perhaps, Vex agreed. But let me tell you what's happened in the 3 weeks since I distributed this recording. I sent it to every mercenary guild, every pirate haven, every slaver port in 3 sectors. He pulled up a datapad and read from it. The syndicate has removed all bounties on human children from their networks. The Red Chain Pirates have issued a fleet-wide order. Human vessels with children aboard are not to be touched under any circumstances. The Outer Rim slavers have blacklisted humans under age 25 completely. Vex looked up at the council. Do you understand what this means? The entire criminal underworld of 3 sectors has declared human children untouchable. Not because of military intervention. Not because of diplomatic pressure. But because the cost is infinite. The High Commander's eyes narrowed. What do you mean, infinite? I mean that humans don't negotiate when you take their young, Vex explained. They don't follow normal rules of engagement. They don't care about their own casualties. They just come. And they keep coming until either their child is safe or everyone responsible is dead. There is no middle ground. No compromise. No surrender that will be accepted. He gestured to the now empty hologram space. I watched a grandmother, easily 60 years old by human standards, take a plasma bolt to the chest. The kind of hit that drops most species instantly. She grunted once, shifted her weapon to her other hand, and killed 3 pirates before moving on to the next target. I watched a schoolteacher, a man who spends his days teaching children basic math, beat a Krell enforcer to death with his bare hands. The teacher had 3 broken ribs. Didn't matter. He kept fighting until the threat was eliminated. The trade minister shook his head. But humans are known as diplomats. Traders. They're weak compared to most species. That's what we all thought, Vex said. That's what got 38 pirates killed. Yes, humans prefer peace. Yes, they prefer negotiation and trade. But underneath that civilization is something else. Something older. They come from a death world where they had to survive ice ages and predator species that were bigger, stronger, and faster than them. They survived by refusing to quit. By protecting their young at any cost. He paused, letting that sink in. They have laws. They have morality. They follow rules. But when you threaten their children, all of that goes away. What's left is something primal. Something that doesn't think about costs or consequences. It just acts. The High Commander was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally he spoke. Are you saying we should fear humans? No, Vex said firmly. I'm saying we should respect them. Fear implies they're a threat to us. They're not. Humans are good trading partners. Good neighbors. They keep their word and honor their agreements. But we need to understand what we're dealing with. We need one simple rule added to our protocols. Don't touch their children. Ever. For any reason. He looked around the chamber, meeting each council member's eyes. I've worked security for 40 years. I've fought in wars. I've seen hundreds of species in combat. And I'm telling you, humans are the most dangerous species I've ever encountered. Not because they're the strongest or the fastest or the best armed, but because they will pay any price to protect their own. And there is nothing in this galaxy more terrifying than someone who's willing to die to protect what they love. The High Commander nodded slowly. Your recommendation? Update our protocols. Make it clear to every ship, every crew, every operation. Human children are completely off limits. Not worth the risk. Not worth the profit. Not worth anything. Because if you touch one, the others will come. And they won't stop until you're dead. The council voted. It was unanimous,